Hi friends, welcome back. This is Caitlin, and today we're going to make a super fun and happy, very cheerful card. I just got the rainbow plaid paper pack from My Favorite Things, and this definitely inspired the whole project. So I grabbed this really fun, bold, kind of thicker lined rainbow plaid. And I also had this scrap of snow cone cardstock in my stash, so I figured that was the perfect time to use that up for my background, my little scene we're going to make. And this is a stamp set that I recently ordered from them called Beeline to Your Heart. I just thought this was so cute. I love the MFT bees so much, but the only set that I have with them is the Christmas one. And so I really wanted to add some more bees to my stamp collection, and this to me seemed like a perfect kind of spring into summer kind of like crossover set. So I'm stamping out one of the bees and this little bear holding the flower, and you can see I'm really trying to use every little bit of my Copic expressive paper. So those got stamped onto a little scrap that I had, and then I have a bigger fresh piece. I just had to order a new pack. So I stamped the kind of lower scene and upper scene elements from the stamp set. So the one on the left is going to be our ground space, and then the one on the right is like the tree that'll go up in the corner, like coming out of the edge of our card, kind of like background. And I'm holding up the double stitched rectangle dies to that bottom scene to make sure that the one that I pick is just a hint smaller than that bottom scene. So that way, when we layer everything over, it'll all sit really nicely. So I trimmed down my plaid paper to be A2 standard size, 5.5 by 4.25. I cut out that snow cone cardstock with that double stitched die, and so that is all ready, and I have it up there on the side just to help me as I'm picking my colors with my Copics. And I started out with the bee because obviously I knew what colors he was going to be, and I like to do the face yellow. So my first stripe down is almost always black, and then the bottom is black. Sorry, I just think that it's nice to have the lighter color around the face so you're not losing those little facial features, his expression. And the lines for this, especially for the face, is so delicate and thin that I'd be worried that using black markers around it, it would get lost in there. So I'm going in with Y19, 15, and 13. We're going to use a lot of the same colors repeating through this card. I think that it's nice to kind of bring everything together. And even though it's a rainbow plaid, I didn't do a full rainbow with my color selection. I wanted something that would kind of accent the colors in our scene more so than do an exact match for everything. So we don't have any orange in this card, and we don't, I don't know, we have all of the other colors kind of, but I think even in just leaving out the orange, it doesn't read as a complete rainbow. So keep that in mind, that leaving out one or two colors can really kind of alter the general look of your card. Whether you want it to be more rainbow, then you want to make sure that every color is kind of represented somewhere. And if you don't want it to be rainbow, then know that even just leaving out one or two shades will accomplish that. I added some teal to the bee's wings, but it didn't stand out enough. So in a second, I think I'm going to add a little bit more. And I wanted my bear to be very neutral. So I just went in with some E30 markers and shaded him in nice and kind of soft. This card just makes me so happy. I've been having quite a week. Our family's been dealing with a lot of stuff recently, and some sicknesses, and so much has been going on. This was a card that I really was considering not making. I wasn't sure I was going to make a video. I've been trying to just kind of give myself grace, but I had ordered this stamp set and that paper pad, And I was like, that night I really wasn't feeling like doing much. And I remembered that I had just gotten those stamps in the mail. And I was like, well, if I at least sit down and color, if I'm not feeling it, I can just stop. And then, an hour and a half later, this whole card was done and I was in love with it. So, again, I know I've said it a couple times in my last couple videos, but I do think that it's important to not lose sight, that crafting and creating and art can be so therapeutic. But if you aren't feeling up to it, obviously you don't have to make anything you don't want to make. But I will tell you that trying to push myself to at least get started, it's kind of like those people that say like, oh, well, if you don't think you want to go to the gym, at least go and sit in the parking lot. And if like once you're there, you still want to go home, then you can go home. That's kind of how I feel with my crafting right now. Like if I at least sit down and I turn on the lights and I turn on the camera and I start to color, if once I get started, I feel great, then that's great. But if once I get started, it feels forced, then I can turn everything off and go sit on the couch and do nothing. But more often than not, I find that it does feel good to be sitting at my craft desk and creating. So yeah, I shaded the grass and the leaves on that bottom section, and I'm doing the same exact color choices for this top section. There are a couple parts in my coloring where I'm gonna kind of skip over because things do get pretty repetitive here as far as like how I'm shading in the flowers. But everything was kind of with those same YG markers, so YG09, YG06, and YG01. So really, really bright, really fun, springy kind of green. And again, I do just love how this whole color combination worked out. It could definitely be spring, could also, I think, be summer. I don't know about you guys. I know it's way too early to make summer cards, but I'm in the mood. I want to make like some tropical, fun, warm cards. I'm just so sick of winter. And I just want more sun in my life, I think. And I know where I am on the East Coast, I'm also really lucky with how nice and mild the weather has been. But if you live in, Nova Scotia or one of those places where it's just so freezing, I feel for you because I can barely manage with how things are here in Delaware. So I shaded in all of those shadows on that whole treetop first, and then kind of went over everything with that YG01. I just thought that would be a little more simple versus trying to do kind of each section. It didn't feel necessary. And then I used those same E30 neutral markers to shade in the branch, just trying to focus on some of the darker colors versus the lighter, right? There won't be any E30 in this one. Just to kind of, so it goes with the bear, but they don't exactly match. And my purple flowers, I did the same for all of them. So V09 kind of on one side of each petal, kind of trying to make a centered light source. And then V17 to blend that out. And then we'll pull in a V15 to shade what's left of each petal. And like I said, this is the same for all of my purple flowers. All of the flowers that kind of have this smaller shape are going to be purple. And all of the bigger ones are going to be pink with a yellow center, just like the one that our little bear was holding. So the bigger ones, I took a different approach. I shaded the whole outer part of the petal, and then kind of like a rainbow, brought in the middle and then the center, versus the smaller ones were so small that I felt like if I did that, the whole thing would basically just be that V09. So that was the main deciding factor on kind of the shading approach for each of those, of picking one side versus doing that whole arch. I added the honey shades in with that same yellow that I pulled in for that bee, so that Y19, 15, and 13. And then again for the beehive, I wanted to stay in the 30s, but to add in even more darkness, I brought in the E37 and added that for a little extra shading on kind of the ribbing of this beehive. I want to throw this out there again in case anybody hasn't seen it before or is like new to me. If you are watching this in, close to when it came out, this video, or anytime at the end of February or beginning of March, I am teaching a class with the Card Maker Success Summit. That is happening like the week of March 9th and 10th. Maybe it's like 8th, 9th, and 10th of 2024. And I am teaching a really fun kind of in-depth scene with some Sweet November Stamps images. And those tickets are free. So I will have a link in the description that you can go to reserve your free ticket. And using my link does help kind of show them that you like me and that they should keep me on as a teacher. With them, there is also a VIP like unlimited access option. So you get access to all of the classes of all like 3 or 4 days forever. So if that's something you want to upgrade to, I do make a small commission from that. But also no pressure if you want to just take the class and see what's up. I can't give you details now, but I can tell you that I will have some really cool exclusive deals and surprises that are coming along with that class. So even if you're just interested to see what that's going to be, you can get your free ticket reserved now. Pop in on that Saturday to my class and my live here on YouTube. That's Saturday, March 9th. And then you can take advantage of the fun deal that I'll be able to share at that point. And it will have cost you nothing. So I'm really bad at these sales pitches, but hopefully that works. Yeah, it's just a fun thing. It's nice to have so many different techniques and teachers all kind of in one place. And even if you just pop into a couple classes for free over the weekend, like why not? You know what I mean? So I shaded in, like I said, those top flowers, all with the pink with yellow centers. I shaded in those bottom flowers purple, just like we did on the tree. And now I'm going in with a white gel pen and just adding lots of little dots to the purple and kind of the classic kind of curved line with a dot, like a curved exclamation point to each of the larger flowers. I added a little bit here and there to the kind of honey drips on the little honey pot and the beehive. And I also brought in some of the teal from our bee wings into that honey pot as well. I thought that would tie in really nicely with that snow cone cardstock that we have as our main backer panel. I love how detailed these metal dies are. They cut out some extra space kind of between some of those flowers that I wasn't expecting. And I think it makes such a beautiful scene. So I am holding all of my stuff in the center there, just trying to get like a general idea of where my sentiment is going to fit on that snow cone panel. So nothing's glued down yet because I knew I was going to add in some foam, and this doesn't have to be exact, but it was pretty close. And I went in with boysenberry ink from My Favorite Things. I was going to try to heat emboss this, but the lines in the stamp set of the sentiments is so delicate and kind of like thin that I was worried that it wasn't going to be super legible. So I still wanted some purple to kind of change things up and bring in another color. But I just went with ink instead of worrying about heat embossing. So I used a sheet foam from Pink and Maine that I've been really enjoying lately. I'll have that linked in the bottom too. But especially for something like this, it's a panel. It's so much faster to just cut a little rectangle out of that sheet of foam versus trying to do strips. So I put the tree up in that top corner so that it would overlap onto the plaid, and the same with that bottom piece. That's going to overlap over our plaid and kind of off the edges, which was my plan from the beginning. That's why I made sure that the double stitched die that I used was just a little bit smaller. I love how this really brings the scene to life, and those two elements especially kind of really makes them pop. I glued the upper and lower scene pieces down directly with liquid glue, and I used some more scraps of that rectangle foam to pop up the bee and the little bear. It does cover up some of those flowers, but I think it's sweet because like his flower kind of then blends in. And for a little extra pop of shine, I decided to go in with these yellow iridescent sequins from This Calls for Confetti, and I added them to the center of each yellow, the yellow centers of each pink flower with the kind of medium sized sequins. And then I actually also went in with the smallest sized and added a little sequin, or I guess they're confetti, right? They don't have holes in the middle. To each of the purple flowers. And it's not super intense, it's not super bright, but you'll see in a second when I shift the card back and forth, it just kind of catches the light and adds just like a little something extra. I really love this card and how just like happy and cheerful it is. And I think that anybody that would receive it would be super happy too. So I just want to thank you for coming to hang out with me. I hope that this inspires you to kind of play with some more colors, maybe think about some new color schemes or color families. I don't know. But I hope that you have an amazing weekend. And as always, happy crafting.